personal problems. So there's no problem at all in getting people to come to the nurse counselor. The first group of people who came were elderly people with their problems of medication and understanding the doctor's orders and so on. The second group were parents of teenagers with their many kinds of problems. The third group were men over 45 who said on leaving after they'd spent a half an hour to an hour just talking with the nurse, letting their hair down as it were, you know, I've told you things I've never told anybody else. I've never told my priest this. I've never told my doctors these things, never told my minister. And we think that the nurse is a unique person in our society because, in effect, the nurses that are on these staffs of churches have 1 foot in the sciences and 1 foot in the humanities, or 1 foot in religion and 1 foot in health. And this makes it possible for her to be the catalyst that brings these two professions of theology and medicine into some kind of conversation at the place where they ought to be concerned, namely the patient, because that's where they both meet anyway. So we found this to be very, very helpful, that the nurse is a counselor. But she can't do everything that she's asked to do, so she has to train other people to help her. And so she becomes a teacher of volunteers. And here we are back to lay people again. In one of our churches, we have approximately 100 people who took the Stevens Ministry course of 50 hours of training. And now this nurse has access to these 100 or so people who are willing to give an hour or 2 hours a week in some form of conversation with people who are going through difficult times. And finally, number 4, she is a liaison person with the medical community. She knows her way around the medical community. She can help people to find their way into this complex medical care system in ways that perhaps no one else can. And we find this to be a very helpful part of her ministry. These nurses now are related often to hospitals, a group of say 4 or 5 or 6 nurses who are in churches near each other, meet together in the local hospital where a doctor, family doctor, a nurse educator, and one of the chaplains sits with them as they continue their education to try to see what are the spiritual dimensions of illnesses, and will a person's relationship to God have anything to do with giving that person more stability in times of difficulty. We are convinced that the chief problem, or the chief ingredient, let's say, of either keeping a person well or making them sick has to do with their outlook on life. And this is what the church is concerned about, a person's outlook on life. I think you're going to hear a lot more about this over the next 25 years. And I hope that I'll be still around to enjoy it with you, because this is a new day of understanding the causes of illness in our day. And if 50% of illnesses are preventable, this is where it's going to happen. This is where it's going to happen. And as I see it, congregations are going to play a very important role. And we're going to say, when a person comes to our door and says, what are the health agencies in this community? They'll mention the hospitals and the doctor's offices, and hopefully they'll mention, and of course, the churches. And that's kind of the end of the story. Thank you very much.